Today we'll discuss minerals and their biological functions. Let's have a brief look at the introduction. In the context of nutrition, a mineral is a chemical element required as an essential nutrient by organism to perform functions necessary for life. These vital minerals may seem simple in comparison to the complex organic vitamin compound. Nonetheless, in our diet, they fulfill an impressive variety of essential metabolic functions. The minerals calcium and iron are normally included in nutritional planning. The other major minerals present in the body are phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, sodium, chlorine, magnesium. Others found in traces are manganese, copper, iodine, cobalt, zinc, and fluorine. The largest concentration of minerals is found in bone and teeth. Minerals are also found in soft tissues such as nerves and muscles, and in blood and other body fluids. Some minerals play an important role in the regulation of body function such as maintenance of acid-base balance, control of water balance, contraction of muscles, normal response of nerves to physiological stimulation, and clotting of blood. In this section, we'll be discussing the major element, calcium and iron, and one of the trace element, iodine. First, we'll see the calcium. Of all the minerals in the body, calcium occurs in the largest amount by far. The total amount of body calcium is in constant balance with food sources from the outside and with tissue calcium within the body amongst its various parts. Calcium makes up between 1.5 to 2% of body weight, accounting to 1,200 to 1,600 grams of the typical adult man. Almost 99% is present in bones and teeth. The rest is widely distributed in the blood and soft tissues such as muscle, liver, and heart. In blood, calcium levels are maintained within a narrow range of 9 to 11 milligram per deciliter, rarely varying by more than 3%. When levels in the plasma begin to fall, bone calcium is mobilized. Now, we'll see the function of calcium. First, the body uses 99% of its calcium to keep our bones and teeth strong, thereby supporting and maintaining skeletal tissue. This is done by special type of cells that are in constant balance between depositing and withdrawing bone calcium. Special tooth-forming organs in the gums deposit calcium to form tooth. Second, the remaining 1% of calcium in the body plays a certain roles which includes blood clotting. In the blood clotting process, serum calcium ions are required for cross-linking of fibrin, which gives stability to the fibrin threads. Third, calcium is also required for normal transmission of nerve along axons. Fourth, ionized serum calcium helps initiate contraction of muscle fibers and control of contraction. This action of calcium is particularly vital in the constant contraction relaxation cycle of the heart muscle. Fifth, ionized calcium controls the passes of fluids and solids through cell membranes by affecting membrane permeability. Sixth, calcium ions are important activators of specific cell enzymes, especially ones that release energy for muscle contraction. They play a similar role with other enzymes including lipids, which digests fats, and with other members of protein splitting enzyme system. We'll see the calcium absorption. About 10 to 30% of calcium in an average diet is absorbed. Most food calcium occurs in complex with other dietary constituents, which must be broken down and the calcium released in soluble form before it can be absorbed. Most absorption takes place in the small intestine, chiefly in the duodenum, where pH is lower than the distal portion of intestine. Calcium salts are insoluble in less acid medium. A calcium binding protein carrier is synthesized in the duodenum in response to the action of vitamin D hormone. Thus, transport of calcium by active transport, an energy requiring process across the cell through the membrane and is released into the blood. The calcium phosphorus ratio has been said to influence the absorption of calcium. There are a number of factors which increase or decrease calcium uptake. Vitamin D, low pH, presence of lactose, fat in low concentration, and high protein intake increases calcium absorption. Lack of vitamin D, high fat intake, oxalic acid present in some fruits and vegetables, phytic acid present in cereals, alkaline medium, and emotional instability decrease absorption of calcium. Most of the ingested calcium is excreted in urine and feces. Now, we'll see the calcium requirement. To meet the varied body functions of calcium, the recommended dietary allowance standard for adult is set at 800 mg per day with increase to 1200 mg per day for women during pregnancy and lactation. The recommendation for infant is 400 to 600 mg and for children 800 to 1200 mg. Studies indicate that as much as 1500 mg per day may be required by some middle-aged and other adults. A majority of the studies have found calcium supplementation for post-menopausal women to delay or treat osteoporosis. We'll see the food source of calcium. Milk and milk products, sesame seed with husks, and small dried fish are rich sources of calcium. Fair sources include egg, green leafy vegetables, ragi, broccoli, nuts, and legumes. Now, we'll come to the disease of calcium deficiency or excess. Hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is caused by the following factors. First, impaired elementary absorption due to vitamin D deficiency, and hypoparathyroid causing diminished mobilization of calcium ions from bones and malabsorption. Tetany. A decrease in ionized serum calcium ions below critical level result in changes in stimulation of nerve cells, resulting in increased excitability of nerve and uncontrolled contraction of muscles called tetany. Tetany is characterized by severe, intermediate, spastic contraction of the extremities and muscular pain. Osteoporosis. The rate of bone formation is normal in osteoporosis, but bone resorption occurs at an accelerated pace, leading in a decrease in bone mass, which is caused by a decreased dietary calcium ion. Poor absorption or utilization of calcium, irregularities of parathyroid glands in stimulating bone resorption, immobility, and loss of stimulus for bone formation provided by estrogen. Bone fracture is common among osteoporotics. Osteomalacia. It is the quality and not the quantity of bone that is reduced in osteomalacia. Low blood calcium level is the most frequent cause of this disease, which is common among women living in areas of low sunshine, those taking anticonvulsant, and women with depleted mineral reserves resulting from demand of successive pregnancies and prolonged lactation. Next, we'll see the iron. Iron is a component of the complex protein hemoglobin, a heme protein component of the red blood cells. It is a pigment which gives the blood red in color. Of the 3 to 5 grams of iron present in our body, more than half of it is present in hemoglobin. The rest of it is stored in the liver, spleen, bone marrow, and muscles. In the muscles, it is stored in the form of myoglobin. Iron is also present in some enzymes like cytochromes, catalysts, and peroxidase. We'll see the function of iron. Iron as a component of hemoglobin plays an important part in transport of oxygen from the lungs to the tissues and of carbon dioxide from cells to the lungs. The iron present in pigments and enzymes in the tissue serves to bring about the transfer of oxygen within the cells. Iron plays a role in the conversion of beta-carotene to vitamin A, the synthesis of purine, which is required for the formation of deoxyribonucleic acid and ribonucleic acid. It is involved in the synthesis of carnitine, which is needed for fatty acid transport, synthesis of collagen and antibody production, the clearance of lipid, and the detoxification of drugs in the liver. Some iron-containing enzymes function as a signal-controlling substances in some neurotransmitter system in the brain, example, the dopamine and serotonin system. Other key functions for the iron-containing enzyme cytochrome P450 is the synthesis of steroid hormones and bile acids. Next is the absorption of iron. The absorption of dietary iron by the body is small. Many factors affect the rate of absorption, such as source of iron, presence of vitamin C in the diet. The bioavailability of iron varies depending on the kind of diets. That is, iron present in animal products, known as heme iron, is more readily absorbed than non-heme iron present in plants. Presence of ascorbic acid in the diet also promotes absorption. It reduces ferric iron to the absorbable ferrous state. The portion of the small intestine, called the duodenum, is a chief area where iron absorption takes place. Once iron is absorbed, it is carried or transported by a protein called transferrin. Each molecule of transferrin can carry 2 atoms of iron. Transferrin binds to iron and transport it all tissues, vital organs and bone marrow so that normal metabolism, DNA synthesis and red blood cells production can take place. Ceruloplasmin, a major copper-containing protein in plasma, is also involved in iron transport. Deficiency. Deficiency of iron leads to reduced synthesis of hemoglobin and hence a lower than normal amount of hemoglobin in red blood cells. Iron deficiency anemia is a major problem worldwide, especially among women. The problem is due to a loss of blood greater than can be replaced by absorption of dietary iron. In developing countries, intestinal parasites, especially hookworm, which cause large loss of blood in the fishes, are a common cause of iron depletion and cause anemia in both men and women. In developed countries, it is mainly women who are at risk of iron deficiency anemia as a result of heavy menstrual losses of blood. Probably 10 to 50% of women have menstrual losses of iron greater than can be met from normal dietary intake and therefore at risk of developing anemia unless they take iron supplements. We'll see the food sources. The base source of iron are organ meats, especially liver. Other food sources include meats, seafood, egg yolk, whole or enriched grains, legumes, green leafy vegetables, and nuts. Recommended dietary intake of iron. The recommended dietary intake of iron for men, women, infants, and children are as below. Man, 24 mg per day. Woman, 32 mg per day. During pregnancy, 40 mg per day. During lactation, 32 to 35 mg per day. For infants, 1 mg per kilogram of body weight. For infants between 1 to 9 years, 20 to 25 mg per day. Girls between 10 to 12 years and boys between 10 to 8 years required 20 to 25 mg per day, and girls between 13 to 18 years required 35 mg per day. Last, we'll discuss about the iodine. This trace mineral is present in minute amount, accounting for approximately 0.00004% of body weight. The body contains a total of 15 to 23 milligrams of iodine. Over 75% of this is present in the thyroid gland. The rest is distributed in salivary, mammary, and gastric glands and the kidneys. Within the circulation, iodine occurs either in the form of free iodide, ions, or as protein-bound iodide. Let's see the function of iodine. Thyroid hormone synthesis. Iodine participates in the synthesis of thyroid hormones as its only non-function in human metabolism. The hormone, thyroxine, in turn stimulates cell oxidation and regulates basal metabolic rate by increasing oxygen uptake and reaction rates of enzyme system handling glucose. In this role, iodine indirectly exerts a tremendous influence on the body's total metabolism. Plasma thyroxine. The free thyroxine is secreted into the bloodstream and bound to plasma protein for transport to body cells as needed. After being used to stimulate oxidation in the cell, the hormone is degraded in the liver and the iodine is excreted in bile as inorganic iodine. Absorption of iodine. Dietary iodine is absorbed in the small intestine in the form of iodides. These are loosely bound with proteins and carried by the blood to the thyroid gland. About 1/3 of this iodine is selectively absorbed by the thyroid cells and removed from circulation. The remaining 2/3 of the iodine is usually excreted in the urine within 2 to 3 days after ingestion. A pituitary hormone, thyroid-stimulating hormone, stimulates the uptake of iodine by the thyroid cells. That's the deficiency and excess of iodine. If the iodine intake is deficient, the thyroid gland enlarges, and this condition is not a simple or endemic goiter. The normal thyroid glands weigh about 25 grams. In goiter, it enlarges from 200 to 500 grams. Iodine deficiency goiter results in hypofunctioning of the gland. If diagnosis is done early and iodine supplements are given, the thyroid may become normal. If timely treatment is not given, the thyroid will become permanent. Thyroid hormones regulates metabolic activity, and people with thyroid deficiency have a low metabolic rate and hence gain weight readily. They tend to be lethargic and have a dull mental apathy. Children born to iodine deficit mothers are especially at risk, and more so if they are then weaned on to an iodine deficient diet. They may suffer from very severe mental retardation, also called goitrous cretinism, and congenital deafness. Overactivity of the thyroid gland and overproduction of thyroid hormones lead to a greatly increased metabolic rate, possibly leading to very considerable weight loss despite an apparently adequate intake of food. Hyperthyroid people are lean and have a tense nervous system. When there is a risk of iodine deficiency, supplementation of food is common. Iodized salt may be available or bread may be baked using iodized salt. Requirement of iodine. An adult requires about 0.15 to 0.20 milligrams of iodine, and for infants and children, 0.05 to 0.1 milligram daily is enough. We'll see the sources of iodine. Seafood provides a considerable amount of iodine. The quantity in natural sources varies widely depending on the iodine content of the soil and iodine compound used in food processing. The commercial iodizing of table salt at 1 milligram to every 10 grams salt provides a main dietary source. Conclusion. From the present discussion, we came to the conclusion that mineral in our diet fulfills a variety of metabolic functions in the body. Calcium is an important mineral necessary for healthy bones and teeth and important for nerve functioning. Iodine, found in thyroid hormone, helps regulate growth and development and metabolism. Iron, a part of the hemoglobin found in red blood cells, carries oxygen in the blood needed for energy metabolism. Owing to certain rules of these minerals in our body, it is necessary to obtain a balance of minerals through food which contain them, as limited or excess have shown to give certain clinical problems related with the particular minerals.